But we do have Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick from Texas here with us tonight. Lieutenant Governor, you said, please stand, you said after what we saw in Dallas that some of the protesters were hypocrites for running from the scene and the expectation that the police officers would then protect them. I know that since then you have said you would have chosen different words, but you have been critical about leadership in this country not having the backs of our police officers. I'm curious what you mean by that and what you would like to see from the president.
Sure. First of all, Mr. President, as Lieutenant Governor of Texas, like you, I have some people that really like me and some people that really don't. But the police officers in Texas know without question, regardless of their political party, that they have my support and I have their back. I'm concerned that police officers across the country, they know you support law enforcement, of course, but do they really in their heart feel like you're doing everything you can to protect their lives? Yesterday, you had meetings at the White House, and afterwards you said the tension between the police and between Black America is only going to get worse. Words matter. Your words matter much more than mine. Everything you say matters, and I would ask you to consider being careful when there is an incident of not being too quick to condemn the police without due process and until the facts are known. I know that's not your intention, but again, words have meanings. And the other thing I'd like to say tonight, consider when you go home to the White House, to put on the blue lights. The police have asked you to do that. You've done it for other groups. It would send a strong message.
Let me first of all say that I have been unequivocal in condemning any rhetoric directed at police officers. So I think, Lieutenant Governor, you'd have to find any message that did not include a very strong support for law enforcement in all my utterances dating back to Ferguson. Because I relied on law enforcement to protect me and my family, just like everybody else does. So I appreciate the sentiment. I think it's already being expressed, but I'll be happy to send it to you in case you missed it.
Mr. President, I know you have. I just want them to know it in their heart.
Let me respond to the points that you've made. The second point is that I have also insisted throughout all these processes that law enforcement is deserving of due process just like everybody else. So no matter how powerful videos may be or what's been said, everybody deserves to be treated fairly by the justice system. And I have, and Michelle has, police officers in our family, and we know what a tough job they have. And we want to make sure that when incidents happen, however they look, that we have to take a breath and see what exactly has occurred. Now, Lieutenant Governor, what I have said is that the data, and this is not just stuff I make up, I'm aware that my words matter deeply here. The data shows that there are disparities in terms of how persons of color and whites are treated in the aggregate. That doesn't mean in any individual case there's discrimination. It just means that across a lot of different situations there are discrepancies, and that those aren't good for building trust or making people feel as if they are being treated fairly. And that's not good for police either. And what I've said is we have to address that. And we have to address that honestly. But I think that the one thing that all of us need to do, you and me, is to make sure that we don't pretend as if there aren't potential problems in how police in certain communities interact, and that when we raise those issues, or people raise those issues, that the perception is somehow that that's anti-police. That's, I think, what I've tried to express. And I completely agree with you. The protesters have to be peaceful. It's counterproductive if you're not. And if we also acknowledge the fear that communities feel if a parent sends their kid out to the store and they're not sure whether they're going to have a bad interaction that results in a tragic death. If we can just acknowledge this isn't a matter of us versus them, but it's a matter of all of us together as Americans working to solve this problem, then I think we will solve it. It's going to take a while to get to the point where we want to be, but nobody's more hopeful than me. I'm Mr. Hope when it comes to these issues. I mean, I've said from the start that we are not as divided as we seem, and I think we're going to solve it. But we have to understand that in a country of 300 million people, where the police interact millions of times with individuals, black and white and Hispanic and Asian and Middle Eastern, that there are going to be, there are going to be some problems. And we shouldn't shy away from that. But I am absolutely hopeful that we're going to solve it. But I just want to make this point, particularly for young people. Things are much better than they used to be. They're much better than they used to be. If you think about, for example, crime rates. Under my presidency, violent crime rates have dropped precipitously. We have some of the lowest murder rates today than any time since the 1960s. Much less violent generally in our communities than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. That's a sign of hope. And some of that is because of some excellent policing that's been done and communities that are working with police. So we can make progress. It's just we have to be steady about it. And make sure that all of us take responsibility rather than worrying about, okay, I want to make sure that I blame somebody else for the problem. That way I don't have responsibility for the solution.
You said you're the most